The Las Vegas football team went from in position to have the number two pick in the 2025
number 2
NFL draft. And now, because they won, they're down to number 6 at this moment. So from 2 to 6. Now, that led to immediate backlash against the silver and black, and Antonio Pierce deciding to address the Komodo dragon in the room. If you did not hear what he had to say, maybe you missed it. Well, let's go to the audio tape. Here's Antonio Pierce. He did not bite his tongue when discussing the situation. Take a listen.
We don't do this to lose. We don't do this for anybody's fantasy football team. We don't do this for anybody's drafts, projections. None of that matters to us. Only thing that matters is winning. And that's all we want to do.
All right, so that was an edited version because he did say a bad word. And I don't know who edited that, but I would like to make a request to the Fox Sports Radio editing department. It is much more entertaining for the listener, the consumer of audio content, if a person curses like Antonio Pierce did, rather than just edit out the word, if you put a beep in there around the word, man, is that fun. Man, is that. Like, I'll tell you what he actually said. Antonio Pierce said, we don't do this to lose. We don't do this for anybody's fantasy football team. We don't do this for anybody's draft projections. None of that poop. They said the S word, but it matters to us. But if you play it again, Lorraine, because if you listen closely, the S word, I use the word poop, completely edited out, which to me loses the comedic value of the soundbite because it would have been much more fun to put a bleep in there. But let's listen.
We don't do this to lose. We don't do this for anybody's fantasy football team. We don't do this for anybody's drafts, projections. None of that matters to us. Only thing that matters is winning.
See that? You heard that little click? Yeah, but man, bad job. Again, I want, if you're going to have people curse, and it's fine, we're all adults, why not have a little beep? Now, one of my heroes in radio, when I got into the business, when I was learning radio, this guy named Jim Healy, and what he would do is he would put the bleep but leave the word in. So you'd hear the dirty word, but you can't get in trouble with the FCC because you put a bleep in there. And this was just completely edited out. Unfortunate. So anyway, let's get back to the point. The point of the rant by Antonio Pierce, even though it lost the full excitement because the bad word was edited out, he said he's not worried about fantasy football. He's not worried about anybody's draft projections. What matters is winning. And that's all we want to do. All right, so let us discuss. Question. Antonio Pierce, as you just heard, says the Raiders, they don't care about draft projections. They don't care about that. All right? Are we in or out on that statement, the general tone of the statement? So I've got Colt, scientific theory, and nobody beats the Wiz. And we will combine all of these things together, and we will go down the yellow brick road. Down the yellow brick road we go. And try not to get bogged down as we go down the yellow brick road. Number one.
Number one. Number one. Number one. Number one. Number one.
I'm all in. I'm all in on Antonio Pierce. Now, listen. This has not gone well. I was optimistic that Antonio Pierce would be able to squeeze out a competitive Raiders season. It has not gone the way I expected it to go. It has been a disaster. But in terms of what he just said, bravo. Bravo, Antonio. I'm clapping. Bravo. Antonio Pierce was the darling of the Raider fan as the interim coach when he passed out cigars in the locker room, and he was the epitome of what Josh McDaniels had been. Now, because the Raiders won a game after losing 10 in a row, Antonio Pierce is public enemy number one. He's public enemy number one. But congratulations. Congratulations, Raider fans, as the old cigarette slogan from back in the day said, you've come a long way, baby. You have come a long way. The Raider franchise, again, I go back to my childhood, but when I was a kid, the Raiders sold themselves. It was Al Davis's just win, baby, right? That was his mantra, and commitment to excellence and all that. Those were the the franchise monikers for the Raiders. And now we're at the point where the fan base is upset because they won a game. How pathetic are you? What kind of loser are you as a fan? You are pathetic. You're a disgrace, and all fans like you. It is a disease, and you don't even realize you have the disease. You don't even understand you have toxicity as a fan. That's progress? My fat ass, that's progress. Oh, come on. I stand with Antonio Pierce. It is impossible. It is impossible to have a rational conversation with a fan of tanking. These people have disease. Their brain is diseased, okay? This is a cult. It is a cult that believes all the dogma of the NFL draft, that every scouting report is accurate and every player is going to be amazing. And the thing that just blows me away is a team like the Raiders. How many high draft picks have the Raiders had over the years who had all these glowing accolades coming out of whatever college they went to, 5-star All-American, and they got to the NFL and couldn't play? All right. One draft, the Raiders, if I remember, they had 2 first-round picks. One of them killed a woman driving drunk. The woman burned up in her car. The guy's in jail right now. The other one committed crimes with guns and is out of the NFL, or was out of the NFL. But at the time, oh, man, blue chip kid out of Alabama and this other guy from Ohio State, I can't believe it. That's the draft. You're much more likely to get something like that than you are to get the next Hall of Famer. But yet, you fall in love with these draft picks. It's all fact, you believe. None of it's fiction. And even though most of those scouting guides from the Draftniks are a total fabrication, the draft is a necessary evil, but the people that believe it is the only way and it is the path to salvation, you make me want to puke in my mouth. I literally want to puke in my mouth. And so bravo, Antonio Pierce, again, and every one of those dopey Raider fans. May you get the number 1 pick and draft a guy that can't even chew gum and walk at the same time. May you get that. All right, now, page 2. We now pivot to the high-speed sports wire. And that's where the Houston Texans have made their move. They have claimed wide receiver Deontay Johnson. He was fired by the Baltimore football team. The Ravens fired him. The Chargers were the only other team to put a waiver claim in on Johnson, but Johnson unable to go to the Chargers because the Texans had a higher status. Johnson will be able to share some intel on his former team, the Baltimore football team, ahead of the game on Christmas there tomorrow, as the Ravens and Texans get together. Of course, probably not much considering Deontay Johnson slept through team meetings. So the question, does wide receiver Deontay Johnson move the needle for the Texans? Does he move the needle? So you can't see me, and if you can, you're a stalker. I am shaking my head no. Now, let me explain. So with wide receiver Tank Dell suffering a gruesome, I don't ever want to see it again type injury, where his leg was mutilated. Snap, crackle, pop goes the ACL, the dislocated kneecap, right out of a horror movie, watching the injury to Tank Dell over the weekend. So he's out. They already lost wide receiver Stephon Diggs. He gone. So there's a major void there for serviceable pass catchers in Houston. Now, they do have Nico Collins, and after that, the coverage are bare. The coverage are bare after Nico Collins. So what kind of impact will Deontay Johnson provide? I am going to follow the scientific theory. Follow the science. Listen to the science, they told us back during COVID. Of course, they were all lying. But this is one of those deals that looks better in theory than reality. Right? Johnson, I love the headline. Texans get Pro Bowl wide receiver. The Pro Bowl is pin the tail on the donkey now. That's the Pro Bowl. That's not impressive. Anybody can play pin the tail on a donkey. Anyway, Johnson will be joining his 3rd team this year. Now, that tells you he's not that good, right? He started out with Carolina, went to Baltimore, played only 39 snaps, 39. for the Ravens after that midseason trade. He caught one more pass than you caught for the Ravens for 6 more yards than you had for the Ravens. And he also had 1 suspension for conduct detrimental to the team. He ended up camping out, not at a 5-star Baltimore Harbor hotel, but instead in John Harbaugh's doghouse. So Deontay is a acquired taste. He's got the talent. However, he's a high-maintenance player, and I have very low expectations. He does not move the needle for me. But he is a warm body, and at this point, the Houston Texans need warm bodies. All right. Final point, we go from Houston adding a Ravens player to Baltimore, the belly of the beast. That is where quarterback Lamar Jackson said he has big plans for halftime on tomorrow's Christmas game as the Ravens and the Texans get in together. And Lamar Jackson announcing that he plans to spend halftime on Christmas watching Beyonce perform. While he's playing in the game at halftime, rather than be in the locker room, he will be out watching Beyonce perform in the stadium. So what does that tell us? All right, so this is what it tells me. It is confirmation. It is confirmation. We have been preaching that halftime adjustments are a myth. Okay, they're a myth. Granted, one that many low information fans love to believe in. I love to believe it. A lot of media dove, spread the gospel, halftime adjustments. When I did the show with Looney on radio, we do it on TV now, but on radio back in the day, we used to mock halftime adjustments. Nothing's changed more in my lifetime than halftime adjustments. Now, some believe that you go into halftime and it's this magical place. It's like a wizardry situation where you're cooking up a spell of X's and O's and all these magical plays. But reality is it's just an opportunity to go in there, grab a quick break. Maybe you change out of your pants, put some new pants on. As Bill Belichick has said back in his day, if you find a weakness, if you find a problem, something you're not doing well, you don't wait till halftime. If it's the end of the first quarter, you're not like, I'm going to wait till halftime. You fix it immediately. You don't wait for halftime. So this becomes a nobody beats the Wiz situation, a nobody beats the Wiz situation. Ergo, Lamar Jackson can use the restroom, nobody beats the Wiz, and eat a couple of orange slices and then go watch Beyonce sing a few tunes. Remember, I think it was the Super Bowl, one of the kickers for the Bengals was watching the halftime show. Remember this, the Rams-Bengals Super Bowl a couple years ago? I remember one of the players got in trouble because they were watching the halftime show while, Super Bowl. The halftime, I'm telling you, there's not a lot going on, despite what you might believe in your heart of hearts. And we'll see whether Lamar actually does this or not. I'm sure there are people around the Ravens who are like, Lamar, you can't do that. You're a 2-time MVP. You can't be out there watching Beyonce. It's a bad look. And Lamar's like, nah, he'll probably be like, who cares? He's not worried about that. He got the contract, so he's gotten his money. And he's having another MVP-level season right now. So does it really matter?